Tony Hinchcliffe is praising Vice President J.D. Vance for defending him after the comedian was embroiled in scandal for a poorly received joke about Puerto Rico before the Trump rally in Madison Square Garden. Here's what Hinchcliffe had to say about the joke fallout on Bill Maher's Club Random podcast.
Have you gotten to meet J.D. Vance?
No, never met J.D.
I gotta tell you, all that I know about him is that this guy's a badass. J.D. Vance, that entire week, he was taking these questions from the press like that. What are your thoughts about the racist comments? And he would nail it every time, day after day.
What do you say?
First of all, it's a comedian. I don't know why you're calling him a speaker. He was a comedian defending free speech, and where has our sense of humor gone?
The joke caused a media firestorm as Democrats portrayed Hinchcliffe, and by extension the Trump campaign, as racist for making it. Here was that joke.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Prominent celebrities like Bad Bunny, Jennifer Lopez, and Aubrey Plaza slammed Hinchcliffe when he made the comments. Politicians like AOC rebuked the joke, and Tim Walz called him a, quote, jackwad.
So, but not J.D. Vance, because I remember this one caused a lot of consternation, a lot of media freaking out. Didn't seem to matter at all when the votes came in. I think Trump did better than Puerto Ricans than any Republican ever previously has done in forever. But J.D. Vance was there making the same point I would make, which is that he's a comedian and it's joke. We're used to jokes being offensive. Now, you could question maybe it was not a good idea to have an offensive joke-making comedian be the warm-up act for a political figure who's trying to appeal to everyone and specifically not offend people. But the idea that people are just offended to have their home mocked or whatever, like, people make jokes. It's jokes. Get over it. Am I wrong?
I think jokes are like debates. So, when you go to watch a debate, typically there's a lot of research on this. You've already made up your mind. So you're going to see your candidate is winning and the other candidate is losing. Same thing with jokes. If you've already decided you're in a particular camp, it's just not going to be funny to you. Now, I personally think jokes are the great unifier, that late night television is a thing we should do more of, actually, to both humanize the political figures that rule our lives, but also because we got to be able to laugh at ourselves. Things are very serious all the time.
And this is part of the story, I think, of why Democrats have started doing so badly with younger men, who watch all these podcast type people. So Tony Hinchcliffe, I was not overly familiar with him before he became the subject of controversy. He participates in like those Comedy Central roasts of famous people. He was a frequent guest on Joe Rogan and I think Theo Vaughn and all those podcasts of kind of funny dudes who talk at great length and sometimes say offensive things, and whatever, that's what you do. Young people love that. They love getting news and entertainment from those formats.
It makes it more interesting.
It makes it more interesting.
You can talk about the substance, but it can also be entertaining.
So then to have everyone representing Democratic talking points, AOC and all the rest, jump into outrage mode over this, was, I just think, a very actually bad and maybe self-defeating posture for them. This is what contributes to the perception of progressives as humorless scolds. And that, I think, actually sunk Kamala. So it's not even just that it should be defended his right to, engage in free speech and make jokes, and it's, not the same as actually asserting. Obviously, we're not saying that there's something wrong with Puerto Rican people or that they're dirty. That's not an actual sentiment. It's a joke that a comedian was making, and to say that, oh, no, you can't do that, I think that was politically bad for them. They said it was going to be politically bad for Trump. I think it was politically bad for them.
I think there's an important discussion that's happening right now in certain parts of the Democratic Party about things like language policing and focusing on certain issues over and above the economic things that actually drive people's decision-making on a regular basis. I think that's important. I do think, though, from a political strategy and timeline perspective, when this took place was right close towards the end. And so at that point, if you're running a major political effort, you're going to take advantage of anything that pops up. So, clipping something and creating an ad out of it or making a mountain out of a molehill. That's kind of part and parcel to the strategy.
No, clearly, and they thought it was going to help them. I think
Right.
it shows the limits of their own thinking. Like, oh, we got somebody making a joke. This is really going to turn off Puerto Rican voters. Trump did so much better with minority voters of all ages, specifically young minority voters who were males. The Republican Party, the gender break between the two parties is so interesting these days. But Trump did better. It just didn't register. So I think it shows the limitations of that thinking.
Yeah, and he did better because what they actually cared about was price of groceries, access to jobs. I mean, some of these economic indicators that were troubling people and frankly are now starting to plague this current president. But those are the things that people actually care about, not the joke.
Yeah, not cancel culture. Nobody wants to be in the canceling, the ones doing the canceling. It just, you don't come off well, I think, if you end up doing that.
Coming up, the explosive claims about a possible Biden cover-up in Cuba.